So in here we have a shim washer. And these shafts do like to be quite stubborn, so it's going to have to be, at the very least, malleted out of there. It's quite promising because sometimes these can be really stuck. But there is the smaller of the two rollers, the two roller halves. We do have two oil stills in here, and they probably should be replaced. So this is drive input from the engine, and this is our shifter. This is to engage and disengage the drive. And I'm manually engaging it. Sometimes it works. Other times I engage it and it just wants to keep jumping out. So it's doing exactly the same thing by hand. So that's drive disengaged. That's drive engaged. It's working absolutely fine now, but when I just tried it a second ago, it was constantly kangarooing. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at that shifter fork as well. Now I couldn't actually find an oil drain, so we'll just have to accept the consequences. There's not much oil in it anyway. And I should be able to just lift this up very, very carefully. Nice strong smell of gear oil. Okay. But let's just very carefully remove the O-ring, which I would like to replace. I don't really fancy reusing it. Anyway, we have our two thrust washers here. Need to make sure they're kept safe. This oil is nothing really out of the ordinary. It's a 2004 mower, so it's old oil. And you can see we've got our bevel gear. So the input drive turns the bevel gear and then is disengaged or engaged with the clutch, and then that goes through the roller, out through the roller, to drive our mower forwards. So in theory it's a very simple system. And there's our pot of oil. Yeah, if you've never smelt gear oil before, it smells like onions. Delicious. So this whole assembly will actually remove. I can pull the entire shaft out. We've got a circlip holding the clutch in, and then we've got some thrust washers underneath, so we need to be careful not to mix any of this stuff up. So despite being able to remove the whole lot, I'm going to first of all remove the circlip. Very carefully. This way I can check our wearing face of the clutch. And so with a part like this, you always need a really good precise zoom or a macro lens, because it can be sometimes very hard to see exactly what we're looking at. But I think probably the best way of describing this is, you can see we've got some wear here on the corners and on the face of it, because this after all is the part which just slides in and out to disengage and engage. But every single tooth, I guess you could call it, has got wear. That one's the worst. And I've seen this before where they don't even look bad at all, and it creates a drive problem. So it is a rather sensitive part, and it's best to be replaced. The next thing we need to look at is the shifter fork. And it looks like we do have a little bit of wear, but not too much. Very minor. And we know it's minor overall because it was engaging. It's just it started to become intermittent. It looks like the bevel gear is okay. I can't see any chipped or missing teeth. I've just cleaned this part in some brake cleaner and it has revealed the shiny areas. These are our wearing areas. But most importantly, the corners there, you can see they're rounded off. And I don't deny at all that this would have probably kept going intermittently for quite some time. And I think if it was your own mower and you didn't really care about that, you'll just keep it going until it broke. But that's not the situation I'm in here. And there is the thrust washer I mentioned. This is the bevel gear that the clutch mates with when it engages. So it is possible to have wear on here as well. But it looks like the wear always does seem to transfer onto this piece rather than this piece. Which is probably a good thing, because I can imagine the bevel gear is much more expensive. New O-ring. It's the big O-ring. It looks like two, but it's one big one for the gearbox case. And then we've got two oil seals for the gearbox, and then the main part, which we'll compare with the old one when I get to the reassembly stage. But currently I'm just cleaning all the parts up. That's all the parts cleaned in White Spirit and then again in brake cleaner. So you can see they're all laid out here, and we're almost ready for reassembly. However, before I do reassemble, I want to change the two oil seals. And the reason for that is because there was a bit of weeping going on with the original ones. And now to compare the two parts. I really don't expect to be a massive visual difference, except for the corners being straighter, the edges being straighter. Yep. Yeah, you can just see how this line here has got a little dent in it, whereas with the new one it doesn't. Now that we've got the gearbox to this stage, I want to put the oil in. So I have 100 millilitres of SA90 oil. So it doesn't look like too much oil right now, but that's because the gearbox is on its side, not in its operating position. When it's in its operating position, this chain will be permanently in an oil bath, lubricating everything as it goes. So now we just need the new O-ring. Of course, very important to make sure that O-ring has not rolled. Needs to make sure it is a good seal. This may go with a bit of a snap, so I've got to be careful. Okay, make sure that oil seal hasn't rolled. Looks good. The reason why I'm oiling the spline is because I don't want it to cut the seal. Can put masking tape on there. I did actually try it, but you just can't get it through the plain bearing inside, so I've just had to oil it instead. Right, and now we're ready to put the bolts back in. And now we just have the driving gauge lever, which does have a specific way of going on. You can't just put it on anyway. So you can see we've got a dot just here on the lever, and there's also a mark on the shaft as well. They just need to be aligned just like a timing mark, and then that will be on correctly. Also worth noting that you can't really attach that lever with the screw in, so it's best to take that out first and then put it in afterwards. And there's a closer view. There's a line which aligns with the dot. I'm turning the input shaft with the gearbox in the disengaged position. I'm going to continue to turn whilst engaging. There we go, perfect. And then we're going to continue to turn and disengage, and it disengages immediately. Engage, disengage. Perfect. So there we have our finished gearbox, ready to fit back onto the roller assembly. Now the roller assembly is absolutely fine in every way. The bearings are good. It really doesn't need much attention at all. I've just given it a quick clean because there was some grease and dirt in here. But yeah, otherwise ready for reassembly. So let's get that gearbox fitted onto the roller, or indeed the other way around. Let's get the roller fitted onto the gearbox.